Welcome back to Crime Documentary Files. Today we'll delve into a tragic case that occurred in 2011 in Monroe Township, New Jersey, USA. Like many who pursued the American dream through studying abroad and eventually obtaining a green card, the main characters in today's story, Wang Xiaoye and Tianle, followed a similar path. Both graduated from two of China's top universities, Tsinghua University and Peking University. With their outstanding achievements, they came to the United States together to study at the University of Pennsylvania. After graduation, they quickly found dream jobs in America. Wang Xiaoye became a talented software engineer for a leading technology company on Wall Street, New York's financial center. Meanwhile, Tianle began her promising career at a renowned pharmaceutical corporation. Starting as an entry-level chemist, she worked tirelessly for 10 years to advance to the position of senior chemist at the company. The year 2008 marked an important milestone when the couple bought their first home in the beautiful town of Monroe. Their joy doubled when they welcomed their adorable son in January 2009, the sweet fruit of their love. At this point, Xiaoye and Tianle's life seemed to be the perfect embodiment of the American dream. In everyone's eyes, they were the ideal model of successful Asian families in America, a happy, prosperous family full of promise. However, fate can be ironic. An unexpected turn of events shattered their peace and plunged this small family into an unimaginable tragedy. After New Year's Day in 2011, Xiaoye began to feel unusually tired and exhausted. Initially, like many others, he thought it was just a symptom of the common flu, so he went to the nearby Princeton University Medical Center, hoping a few pills would help him recover quickly. But reality unfolded quite differently. After taking the medication, Xiaoye's condition not only didn't improve but worsened. He began experiencing worrying symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, and hair loss. These unusual signs made Xiaoye start to worry seriously. Fortunately, an attentive nurse realized that Xiaoye's illness wasn't so simple. She quickly reported to the attending physician, and Xiaoye was kept in the hospital for a comprehensive series of tests. But fate seemed to have been set. From his admission on January 14th, Xiaoye's condition deteriorated rapidly beyond imagination. By January 25th, he had fallen into a deep coma. That same day, the final test results were released, confirming the medical team's worst suspicions. Xiaoye wasn't suffering from a common flu, but was the victim of a horrific poisoning. But tragically, by the time the truth was revealed, it was too late. His condition was beyond the doctor's ability to save. On January 26th, just 12 days after being admitted to the hospital, Wang Xiaoye took his last breath, leaving behind many unanswered questions. A life full of promise at the age of 39 had died painfully and mysteriously. From seemingly harmless initial symptoms to passing away forever, in less than 2 weeks. The question arose, what kind of toxin could cause such horrific symptoms and rapid death? The answer was quickly revealed when the hospital urgently reported the incident to local police and the FBI. The test results revealed a frightening truth. Wang Xiaoye had been poisoned with thallium. But what exactly is thallium, and why is it so dangerous? Thallium is a chemical element widely used in industry. It plays an important role in the production of anti-corrosion materials, low-temperature thermometers, and even superconducting materials. Its compounds are also used in the manufacture of pesticides and depilatory agents. What makes thallium particularly dangerous is that most thallium compounds are colorless, odorless, and easily soluble. This means victims can accidentally ingest or inhale it without knowing. This characteristic has made thallium a terrifying tool in the hands of those with malicious intent. With its toxic and difficult-to-detect properties, it is no surprise that thallium is the cause of many shocking cases. And now, it has once again appeared in Xiaoye's tragic case, leaving many questions to be answered. Thallium poisoning is a serious and complex medical condition, often difficult to diagnose accurately. Typical signs include neurological disorders such as severe headaches, tremors, seizures, and even coma. Victims also often experience digestive problems like nausea, vomiting, and severe abdominal pain. Notably, hair loss is a characteristic sign, usually occurring a few days after exposure to the toxin. Additionally, skin lesions such as redness or rashes may appear. However, due to the rarity of thallium poisoning, doctors often don't consider this possibility initially, leading to the risk of misdiagnosis and delayed timely treatment. Thallium poisoning is classified into two main types: acute and chronic. Acute poisoning occurs when the body absorbs a large amount of thallium in a short time, usually due to accidental or intentional ingestion of the toxin. Symptoms appear quickly and severely, mainly focusing on the nervous and digestive systems. In contrast, chronic poisoning is more common in people with long-term exposure to thallium in the work environment, with symptoms developing slowly over time, potentially including vision loss, motor disorders, and other health issues. In Xiaoye's case, the signs indicated he had been a victim of acute thallium poisoning. So, who was most likely to have poisoned Wang Xiaoye? It was none other than Wang Xiaoye's wife, Li Tianle, a chemist working at a renowned American pharmaceutical company. On January 29th, Li Tianle was arrested by local police on charges of thallium poisoning. The story of the talented couple that had just been admired now made people wonder what had driven Tianle to act so cruelly towards her husband, not hesitating to leave their 2-year-old child fatherless and even willing to destroy the family they had built together. Li Tianle was a Beijing native, an embodiment of fascinating contrasts. Outwardly gentle and beautiful like a fragile flower, but inside harboring a competitive spirit and intense desire for rivalry. At Peking University, where China's top intellects gathered, she still shone brightly with her tall stature and excellent academic performance, like a star in a sky full of stars. Li Tianle's college life wasn't just about books and exams. She also found her first love with Chen Hua, a classmate. Later, they both passed the master's program. It seemed this would be a beautiful love story that would last forever. But from a dance exchange between Peking University and Tsinghua University students, Wang Xiaoye, a talented young man from the Department of Precision Instruments at Tsinghua University, stepped into Tianle's life. When he saw her, he fell in love at first sight, unable to resist the attraction of this beautiful girl. With the courage of youth, Xiaoye went straight up to Tianle and invited her to dance. At that moment, it seemed the whole world around them had disappeared. The couple's graceful, harmonious dance steps attracted everyone's gaze, making the entire hall resound with enthusiastic applause. After that fateful dance, Xiaoye began a campaign to pursue Tianle with what could be called frantic enthusiasm. When he learned that Tianle's heart already belonged to someone else, instead of being discouraged, he became even more determined. With strong faith in his talent and charisma, Xiaoye was confident he would win this race for love. He didn't miss any opportunity to show his feelings and care for Tianle. When he learned of her dream to study abroad, as well as the obstacles from her family and Chen Hua's opposition, he quickly seized this opportunity to make an impression. With astonishing determination, Xiaoye began traveling frequently between Tsinghua University and Peking University just to be closer to Tianle. He enrolled in elective courses at Peking University, helped Tianle keep her place in class, and even didn't hesitate to do her laundry. His devotion was most evident when Tianle unfortunately sprained her ankle. Without hesitation, he carried her up and down stairs for many days. Although Chen Hua was still an almost perfect boyfriend, except for not supporting Tianle's dream of studying abroad, Xiaoye still saw an opportunity for himself. He recognized the conflict and struggle in Tianle's heart and decided to become an indispensable companion in her journey to pursue her dreams. Xiaoye was always by Tianle's side, attending TOEFL preparation classes with her, researching study abroad information, and applying for scholarships. He constantly painted bright pictures of the future, promising a top academic environment in the US, a brilliant career waiting for them, and an eternal love. The sweet promises and promising future vision gradually moved Tianle's heart, putting her in a difficult position between her current love and a promising future. The desirable career and beautiful love made Li Tianle waver. In late 1997, Tianle and Xiaoye both received admission letters from the University of Pennsylvania. In February 1998, they boarded an international flight to the U.S. While waiting at the airport, Tianle suddenly burst into tears. She looked straight into Xiaoye's eyes and said, "Now I've given up my first love, left my parents, and followed you to the U.S. to build a career. You won't disappoint me, will you?" Xiaoye firmly promised, "Trust me, we will definitely succeed, and I will cherish you in the palm of my hand. Love you for life." When they arrived in the U.S., Xiaoye and Tianle quickly faced the harsh reality of international student life. As international students, they were not allowed to work officially, putting them under great financial pressure. A damp basement apartment became their temporary home, a humble beginning for their American dream. Not succumbing to circumstances, Xiaoye was determined to improve their life. He took advantage of every spare moment to work part-time at a local Chinese restaurant. Although the job was unofficial and the pay was meager, he was provided with free meals. With his deep love for Tianle, he ate only a small portion and packed the rest to bring home to his girlfriend. Those small food packages were not just meals, but evidence of Xiaoye's love and silent sacrifice, deeply touching Tianle's heart. Despite their difficult life, their love blossomed like a flower in the desert. Xiaoye was always an endless source of encouragement for Tianle, painting bright pictures of their future. He believed this difficult phase was only temporary and not far off. They would have a real home in America. That sweet promise was the motivation that helped them overcome the hard days. And then, as a worthy reward for their perseverance and relentless effort, in the fall of 2000, Xiaoye and Tianle graduated together from the University of Pennsylvania, opening the door to a promising new chapter. Entering careers with stable and sufficient income, their life in America had completely changed. The initial difficult days were now just memories, making way for a bright future opening up ahead. Their American dream seemed to have begun to come true. However, Xiaoye and Tianle's fairy tale story had begun to show its first cracks. Instead of growing closer, their relationship became tense with increasing conflicts. Tianle's competitive and calculating nature, which had been suppressed during the difficult years, now began to manifest clearly. This became even more intense when Xiaoye, busy with work, gradually neglected to care for her emotionally. By September 2001, they had held a simple wedding, marking the official beginning of their married life. The joy doubled when just 3 months later, their green card application was approved. On the day they received their green cards, happiness filled the air. In his excitement, Xiaoye hugged Tianle tightly and proposed a plan for the future. Next step? Let's have a child as soon as possible. However, Tianle's reaction was like a bucket of cold water on her husband's enthusiasm. With meticulous calculation, she analyzed, "If I get pregnant now and become a full-time housewife, with just one salary, who knows when we'll be able to buy a house?" Tianle's words were not just a simple refusal, but clearly reflected her practical and ambitious mindset. Although Xiaoye was a bit disappointed, he still saw logic in his wife's argument. He chose to remain silent and not argue further. This moment, seemingly trivial, was actually a sign of the growing difference in their thinking and life goals. It also signaled potential conflicts in the future, as Xiaoye's dream of family no longer seemed in tune with Tianle's career aspirations. At that time, Xiaoye's company had many talented employees, so the competitive pressure was intense. Every time he came home, he was exhausted. He gradually did less and less of the housework he used to handle. Tianle was very dissatisfied, often intentionally leaving some housework for her husband to do when he got home. One evening, when Tianle reminded Xiaoye to do the laundry, and he replied he would do it later, her anger erupted. The argument quickly escalated, revealing deep cracks in their relationship. For Tianle, this wasn't just about laundry. It also showed the change in Xiaoye's attitude. From someone who always indulged and gave in to his wife, he had become someone willing to argue with her. This feeling of being hurt made her both angry and heartbroken, finally bursting into tears. Seeing his wife cry, Xiaoye realized he had gone too far. He quickly apologized and promised to change, do more housework, and spend more time with his wife. However, these promises were quickly swept away in the busy whirl of work. Xiaoye's failure to keep his promises only deepened Tianle's disappointment in their marriage. The situation worsened during Chinese New Year in 2006. When Xiaoye announced he had to go on a business trip to Los Angeles on the first day of the new year, Tianle reacted violently. For her husband's absence on the most important holiday for Chinese people was unacceptable. She not only tried to prevent him from going on the business trip, but also threatened to complain directly to his superiors. This argument was like salt rubbed into an existing wound in their relationship, making it even more painful and difficult to heal. Such small incidents continued to occur in the following days, and the severity increased. By this time, Tianle had become quite extreme. She felt pain in her heart, but in America she had no close friends to confide in. She wanted to call home, but she couldn't bear to make her elderly parents worry about her. Unable to find a way to relieve her feelings, Tianle began to resent her ex-boyfriend Chen Hua. She thought that if he had agreed to go abroad with her back then, her life now would certainly not be like this. The more she thought, the angrier she became, and finally, she used a phone number obtained from a classmate to call Chen Hua and vent her anger on him. Chen Hua was scolded in a confused state, not understanding what was happening, and before he could gather his thoughts, Tianle had hung up. After hanging up, she still felt unsatisfied and sent another insulting message to him. It can be seen that at this point, seeds of resentment had been sown in Tianle's heart. The saying, "The deeper the love, the deeper the hate," truly fits the situation of Xiaoye and Tianle's marriage at this time. In March 2008, the couple decided to buy a house. They spent $630,000 to purchase a home in an upscale neighborhood in Monroe Township. Tianle, with her strong personality, didn't want to rely on others, so she proposed splitting the house payment equally, half each. During the time of decorating the house, from large items like curtains and sofas to small decorative objects, both carefully selected everything. Xiaoye intentionally reduced his work pace, refusing some business trip schedules, hoping to mend their already cracking marital relationship. By this time, Tianle was no longer young, so she decided to have a child to fulfill her husband's long-standing wish, while hoping the child would make her husband pay more attention to the family, improving their married life. A few months later, Tianle became pregnant. When he learned his wife was pregnant, Xiaoye immediately declared that he would work harder to support his wife and child. Therefore, he became busier than before. He proactively took on more work from the company, leaving early and returning late. Meanwhile, Tianle was pregnant at an older age, suffering from severe morning sickness and serious depression. She complained many times to her husband, feeling that he always used work as an excuse to not care for her. Because she was pregnant, she could only endure, hoping that after the child was born, Xiaoye would change. In January 2009, their son was born. However, after the child's birth, their relationship not only didn't improve, but became more tense. Tianle thought her husband should spend time and effort to share the responsibility of childcare, and she proposed wanting to go back to work after their son was 1 month old. But Xiaoye firmly believed that Tianle should be a full-time mother, staying at home to care for the child. The couple argued endlessly about this. Initially, Xiaoye could still endure Tianle's complaints and accusations, but over time he also began to argue back, unwilling to back down. As a result, the frequency of their arguments quickly increased to once a week, sometimes even several times. Due to the loudness of their arguments, they were reported to the police by neighbors many times. Finally, the police almost had to come to their house every week to mediate the couple's arguments. At the end of that year, the couple decided to return to China to visit their families. Unexpectedly, as soon as they boarded the plane, they argued about whose family to visit first. As a result, when they got off the plane, each took a separate taxi to their own family's home. In May 2010, they argued again over trivial family matters. Tianle once more accused Xiaoye of wasting her youth and love, leaving her deeply disappointed. By this point, Xiaoye felt tired of this marriage, so he proposed divorce. Hearing this, Tianle became furious. Deep down, she didn't want a divorce, but with her strong personality, she didn't want to give in or give up her career and marriage as Xiaoye wished. She was uncompromising in the division of assets and child support, unwilling to reach a divorce agreement. Meanwhile, Xiaoye believed that Tianle's domineering personality had led to the breakdown of their marriage. He felt he was completely blameless, so he was also meticulous in dividing assets and child support and had a very firm attitude about divorce. This made Tianle even more resentful. According to U.S. law, couples wanting to divorce need to separate for a period. Initially, they planned to sell the house, but due to the impact of the financial crisis, real estate prices had dropped significantly. Selling the house at this time would result in a large loss. Finally, they reached a temporary agreement not to sell the house, living separately under the same roof. However, living together under one roof, facing each other every day, silently sowed the seeds for the later tragedy. Not long after signing the divorce agreement, Xiaoye brought an American girl home overnight. This action deeply hurt Li Tianle. She angrily said to the girl, "This is my house, get out now!" But Xiaoye stood in front of the girl and shouted, "Half of this house is mine, and besides, we've signed a divorce agreement. You have no right to control me anymore." Because of this incident, Tianle cried all night. Afterwards, Xiaoye continuously dated other girls, each of whom he brought home. Once, one of Xiaoye's girlfriends left the house in a mess. With humiliation and anger, Tianle pointed directly at Xiaoye's face and said bitterly, "Don't be too smug too soon. I'll make you pay dearly." However, Xiaoye ignored this threat and continued to act as he pleased. On January 14th, 2011, this was supposed to be the day the couple had to go to court to finalize their divorce proceedings. But Xiaoye had developed the symptoms mentioned at the beginning of the video and had to go straight to the hospital. Little did he know that this step into the hospital would be his last. On January 29th, 2011, Li Tianle was arrested by local police on charges of poisoning her husband with thallium. Faced with this serious accusation, she firmly denied all charges. Tianle's defense lawyer argued that their client had no motive for the crime. The couple had reached a divorce agreement, so she had no reason to harm her ex-husband's life. This argument, while seemingly logical, was quickly shaken by shocking discoveries from the police investigation. Through thorough investigation, the police uncovered a disturbing truth. Since November 2010, Tianle had repeatedly requested thallium metal from her company, citing work research as the reason. With her deep knowledge of chemistry, she was fully aware of the toxic nature and lethal potential of this chemical. After her bitter words to Xiaoye, she had repeatedly taken thallium from the company. This poison was then secretly mixed into Xiaoye's food and drinks. A prosecutor stated that while Xiaoye was lying on a hospital bed struggling with death, his estranged wife, Li Tianle, continued to give him poison. When Xiaoye began to fall into a coma, she tried to buy 2 one-way plane tickets for herself and her 2-year-old son to return to Beijing, but was unsuccessful due to payment issues. A representative from Bristol-Myers Squibb testified to the police that Tianle had taken thallium, an extremely toxic heavy metal, from the company's storage. This substance was not part of the research project she was working on at the time, but she had requested 4 bottles. When she returned the bottles, 90% of the thallium had disappeared. On the other hand, Michael Green, Xiaoye's divorce lawyer, testified that the couple had reached an agreement on custody of their 2-year-old son, and on January 10th, 2011, they had agreed on how to divide assets and financial matters. If they had gone to court on January 14th, they could have completed the entire divorce procedure. But on the morning of January 14th, 2011, Xiaoye had called him, saying that his wife's aunt was sick, his wife Li Tianle was taking her to the hospital, so they couldn't go to court. That evening, Xiaoye had gone to Princeton Hospital for treatment until his death. Initially, Li Tianle's bail was set at $150,000, but after she was charged with murder, this amount was increased by $4 million, totaling $4.15 million. Clearly, Tianle couldn't pay this amount, so she remained detained in the local jail. Time passed, and in May 2013, after more than 2 years of investigation, the court began to try this case. The prosecutor used detailed calendars, charts, and trial videos, along with evidence collected when arresting Tianle, including her handbag, small pieces of paper from the trash, relevant clauses in notebooks, search history on company computers, etc., to prove Li Tianle had a motive to kill her husband and could obtain the poison from the laboratory. After carefully listening to the testimony from both the prosecution and defense sides, the jury unanimously reached a verdict that Li Tianle was guilty of murder. On September 30th, Tianle was finally sentenced to life in prison. This meant that Li Tianle, then 44 years old, had to serve at least 85% of her prison time, which is 62 years without parole. Li Tianle's poisoning case left a profound mark, not only because of its cruel nature, but also because it exposed the dark sides of love and marriage. From a talented couple with a bright future, Wang Xiaoye and Li Tianle became the main characters in a heartbreaking tragedy, ending with the husband's death and the wife's self-destruction. Their story is a powerful warning about the importance of understanding, respect, and communication in marriage. It shows that success in a career doesn't guarantee family happiness, and small conflicts, if not resolved in time, can accumulate into unforeseeable consequences. And that's the story for today. What are your thoughts on this case? Please share in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.